Moodle, and we are going to spend about 20 minutes showing you how it does that, and then open up to questions. The gentleman who is going to be handling most of this is Brian Krutzel. This is a picture of Brian. The first picture is Brian dressed to the nines, and the second is a picture of Brian at work. That's what he looks like when he's working with adapters. And Brian's part of sort of the secret sauce. He's an integration specialist, and everyone that integrates with Macmillan works directly with Brian or one of Brian's team members. It is really important that you have this one-to-one connection, that you're not just calling blindly a customer service person if you choose to integrate, that you have that relationship. It's a consultative relationship, and Brian is really good at this. He's handled hundreds of these. This is all he does, and I say that in a good way. And with that, I am going to pass the controls to Brian and let him take it away and show you the benefits and mechanics of how we are able to integrate our LaunchPad with Moodle LMS.
Thank you, Scott. Hi, everybody. My name is Brian Krutzel, and as Scott said, I am a Moodle integration specialist with Macmillan. And the purpose of today's webinar is to give you an overview of what LaunchPad integration with Moodle is and how it can benefit your different various course needs. So to start, I thought I would just give a quick overview of what an integration could look like with all the different types of assets. So I'd like to start by saying what integration is. So what LaunchPad integration is you can take all different types of content from Macmillan's LaunchPad site and put it into one learning space, such as your Moodle course, and you can have all different types of resources, including original content, if you'd like, that lives in your own Moodle course, and have it all be in one place so your students can go to one website, log in with one set of a username and a password, and then access everything in one place. So at a basic minimum, a LaunchPad integration can simply be just a link to the LaunchPad homepage, which I have conveniently placed right at the top of my Moodle course right here. So if I click on this, what you're going to see is what one of the hallmark features of integration is, which is what I like to call single sign-on. So I logged into my Moodle course, and by clicking on the LaunchPad homepage link, I am taken directly into my LaunchPad homepage. And just to show you again what the single sign-on experience is, if I log out of LaunchPad like I just did, and then go back to my Moodle course and click on this LaunchPad link again, LaunchPad's automatically going to open up in a new tab or window and automatically sign me right back into LaunchPad. I didn't need to enter any usernames or passwords other than logging into my Moodle site. Another feature of Moodle integration is that if you'd like to have an ebook version of your textbook, most versions of LaunchPad do include an ebook, so you could have that also living with quick access right in your Moodle course space. I have that conveniently located right at the top of my course. And if I click on this, again, just like the LaunchPad homepage, it'll open up in a new tab or window, and now I'm only accessing ebook content from my LaunchPad textbook. Now, in addition to having these single access points to a LaunchPad homepage in an ebook, you can also integrate various different resources from LaunchPad into your Moodle course space, because LaunchPad is so robust that you're not going to assign everything that LaunchPad has to offer, but by using an integration, you can cherry pick the different activities that you'd like to use in your course and only have those presented for your students to understand. And by doing it this way, your students have a clear path of what exactly it is that they need to do in your course to succeed. And what I'll do now is I'll give a quick tour of some of the different resources that are available in LaunchPad. The first one is our Learning Curve Adaptive Quizzing. As you can see, we have one for just about every chapter of all of our books. So I'll just click on this learning curve. Now, when I click on this, and it'll also open up in the new tab or window, just like the LaunchPad homepage or the ebook did. But the difference is the learning curve link will actually take me directly to the activity. That's the same experience that your students will have as well. Even further, I can now toggle between my Moodle site and my LaunchPad activity so I never lose my place in the course. The way that a learning curve functions is it's a pass or fail activity. Students will be asked a series of questions. It's usually multiple choice or fill in the blanks. In this case, we have a multiple choice question. And the goal of the activity is for this progress bar to get all the way to the right. As long as your students do that, they will be awarded full credit on the activity. So there's many different ways that students can get the answers and move and progress in the activity. One way is to simply guess, which I'll do right now. So I'll just pick an option and click submit. So I got that question wrong, and my progress bar went down a little bit, but it doesn't mean that I'm out of the activity yet. And learning curve is also adaptive in nature, so it's understanding that I am struggling on this question, and in the next series of questions, it will give me similar questions pertaining to the same chapter area and section to help make sure that I understand what's happening in this chapter. So again, I can guess again, but that's not really ideal because my points are going down. Another option is I can click Get a Hint, which is also going to reduce my point potential for this question. So if I click Get a Hint, it's giving me some hints to steer me in the right direction, which would hopefully help me get the answer. But again, the points are going down a little bit. Another option that I have is I could click the Show Answer button, which is actually going to give me no points on this question. But I'm going to do that. So now I know that the correct answer is this. And hopefully if this question comes back again, because just like I said, learning curve is adaptive in nature, so there's a chance that either this same question will come back or a similar question on the same topic area will be presented to me. If I move on to my next question, we've now demonstrated how I can guess, I can click Get a Hint, or I can click Show Answer, but none of those award me the full credit for the question. The final option is this blue button right here that says Read the ebook page on this topic, which you'll also notice says No Penalty. If I, as the student, click on this link, this takes me to the exact section of the textbook where the answer to this question is. It also tells me where I am, and so if I want to use a print book and I don't want to use my electronic version of the textbook, I can go to my print book and I can get the question that way. Or I can just read this quick snippet, close the window, and then you'll notice that no points are taken away for the question, and I will be able to progress through the activity faster and get to the very end of the activity. So the benefits of that are that learning curve will actually get your students to read the textbook. And the idea is the students would have read the textbook chapter already, and then they take these learning curve activities, and it reinforces what they've already read. Once your students do this, not only can you assign learning curve for a point value, such as 5 points here, so every student who completes the activity, as we can see from this sample roster, 2 of my students so far have completed this activity, which is indicated by the check marks. So they'll get full 5 points of credit, which will also show up not only in my LaunchPad gradebook, but if it's been added to my Moodle gradebook, those grades will automatically sync with the Moodle gradebook as well, which I'll show you in a minute. On top of that, you as an instructor get different reports like what we're seeing on the right side over here. So in this case, my students are doing slightly better on this area of the chapter versus this area. So why is that useful? If you're teaching a face-to-face class, you can use this to adapt your lectures. If you're teaching an online class, you can provide different instruction or support materials in your online environment to reinforce the topic that you now know that your students are struggling with. Students can also get very similar reports because this right here is the class average. However, I can also click into an individual student and see specifically how that student is doing. Individual students can also see their personal results, and if they expand these arrows, they can actually get a personalized study plan with different ebook readings or resources available in the LaunchPad to help them do better on this topic. Another new feature of Learning Curve also is that there is a way to customize the learning curves. So for example, if you don't teach a certain subject area within the learning curve, you can just simply uncheck that area, and then all of those questions will be removed from the learning curve topic. So now, to return to Moodle.
Brian, sorry to interrupt. Normally we would take questions at the end, but since this is specifically about learning curve, I just want to quickly address a really good question we got asked about the grading of learning curve. Since it's not an A, B, C, D grade, what is sent over to Moodle? And the answer to that is the instructor will set a point value for a learning curve activity, and that's up to them. They can set it at 5, 10. Normally, our instructors will make learning curve a small part of their overall grade, 5 to 25% is what most people do. And then the point values are simply, you know, if you assign 10 learning curves, each one is going to be 1/10 of that. So if a student completes the activity, they get full points. If they don't complete the activity, they don't get any points. The nice part about it, it's considered formative assessment. The nice part about it is because all the student has to do is put in the effort, you can assign it before a class, and many of our instructors do assign it before a class as a way to prepare students. Sorry, Brian, normally, like I said, I would address at the end, but this was so specific about learning curve. Continue.
Oh, thanks, Scott. I appreciate that. To answer the question about the grade shooting over, I'll quickly show you what the gradebook looks like. So in Moodle, these learning curve activities will actually shoot over to your Moodle gradebook like so. So as soon as students start completing the activities, any points that you had set in LaunchPad, whether it's 5 points, 10 points, 100 points, that'll come over to the Moodle gradebook. And I'm a little new to Moodle, but if there is a way to have it display as an A, B, C, D, E, F grade, you would just simply set that in the Moodle gradebook. I'm not sure if that's actually a possibility, but if it is, you would actually just do that in your Moodle gradebook, and then you would see those letter grades based on the points. Also in the Moodle gradebook is where you would set your weighted percentages if you wanted a certain activity to be 10% of the grade or 25%. Any of those settings are just done in your Moodle course settings. In addition to the learning curve activities, some other resources that are available are, first off, quizzes. Generally, we provide pre-built quizzes at the end of every chapter, like so. However, all of these quizzes can be edited. So, for example, if you wanted to remove a question because it doesn't pertain to your course, you could simply hover over a question and hit the remove button. You can also add additional questions by accessing our very robust test bank. So, for example, I can just go here and click on any question and just simply add it to the quiz. You can also create your own questions as well. Another option is you can build your own quizzes or tests from the ground up and then add them to your Moodle course. We also offer videos as well as different types of tutorials. It varies from one LaunchPad to another, so anytime you're interested in seeing everything that's available in a LaunchPad course, you can simply access your LaunchPad homepage. Just to recap how I did that, I just clicked on the link that I added to my Moodle course. Then in the new tab or window, I'm taken to my LaunchPad site. And if I click on this Resources tab that's indicated by a star icon on the left side of LaunchPad, and then click Content by Type, I can see everything that's available to me either for the student resources or the instructor resources in a LaunchPad. So that's basically how all of this works. I can bring in select content that I'd like into my Moodle course, and I'll actually go over how you do that in a second. Just to recap one more time, if any content that we've assigned in LaunchPad for a due date and a grade, and that we have individual links added to Moodle, all of those activities will sync with your Moodle gradebook as demonstrated here. I didn't manually add any of these gradebook columns to my Moodle course. These automatically populated as soon as I synced my content with the gradebook. Now, you're probably wondering, how do I do something like this? It's actually very, very simple. So what I'll do is I'll again access my LaunchPad homepage, and I'm going to go into LaunchPad and assign the next round of assignments. So I've already done my first 3 chapters, and now I'm going to move on to Chapter 4. I'll just simply expand my Chapter 4 folder. A lot of content is already curated into the folders for you already, so I can expand individual folders like so, and let's say I wanted to assign a learning curve activity. I can just hover over the learning curve, click this Assign button, then I can just simply select the due date just by clicking on the calendar. I can change my points to whatever I'd like them to be. Those will carry over to Moodle. I can also set a gradebook category, and then just click this blue Assign button at the bottom. It's that easy, and if I wanted to assign something else, and I do recognize that I assigned that for being past due, but if I wanted to assign something else, it's the exact same way to go about it. Just hover over an activity, click the Assign button, select the due date, keep the points as the default or change them, set a category, and then click the blue Assign button. Once the content is assigned for the next round of assignments that you'd like to bring into Moodle, you can simply close LaunchPad by closing the tab up top, go back to your Moodle main page, and what you now need to do is turn editing mode on. Right now I have that off, as we can see by this button at the top right, so I'm just going to click this button, and now editing mode will be on. What I can now do is I'm just going to click on this Macmillan Course Tools plugin, which you would have added at the beginning of the semester. And if you decide that you'd like to use LaunchPad content, I can work with you to help you add the Macmillan Course Tools to your Moodle course. So if you click on this link, you can now access an option that says Macmillan Content. If I click on Macmillan Content in a new tab or window, I'm going to be taken to a table of contents that looks exactly like the LaunchPad table of contents. One difference, though, is this folder at the very top that says Assignments. There's an orange drop-down arrow, and if I click it, we'll see that everything in here is content that I've assigned in LaunchPad for a due date and a grade. Even further, content that I've already synced with Moodle in the Moodle gradebook is bolded, and I can't select it again. However, the two items that I just assigned and have not added to Moodle yet, such as the Chapter 4 summative quiz and the learning curve for Chapter 4, I can now just select those activities. They're very easy to find because they look different than the other ones that have already been added to Moodle. Then I'm going to click this green button at the bottom that says Next, choose Location. On the next page, I can just select the next module, like so, and then click this green button at the bottom that says Deploy Selected Content. We'll just wait for it to finish, and once the confirmation that the content has been added, I can now close this tab at the top, go back to Moodle, and now all of that new content has been added to my next folder. I can also move content around once it's been added. So just because I've added it to this one module, it doesn't mean that it's stuck here. I can actually drag it to a different module and drag activities from another module into a different module as well. If you wanted to remove a piece of content, you can just click the edit icon. Click the edit icon and click delete right here, and then it'll leave your Moodle course. Once your content is set up the way you'd like it, you can just go up to the top and turn editing mode back off, and now your course is set. And once you're ready to add additional content, you would just simply go back to your LaunchPad homepage, assign the next round of content, and then bring it into Moodle. That's more or less everything that I wanted to show from the instructor side. As you can see, it's a fairly easy process and fairly easy to communicate with the two systems once they're linked up. Now what I'd like to do is just quickly show you how the student experience would work in terms of registering into LaunchPad from Moodle. So first thing I'm going to do is just log out with my instructor access from LaunchPad, and I'm also going to log out of Moodle with my instructor account. Now I'm going to log back in as a student. So one of the benefits of the integration, just to reiterate, is that students only need to have login credentials for Moodle once they establish the initial connection between Moodle and LaunchPad. When I sign into Moodle as a student, I can now access my courses, log into my course, and all I have to do at this point is click on any of these LaunchPad activity links, which are indicated by these red flag logos. If I click on this link, I'm prompted to click this button to open in a new frame, and right off the bat, I am being prompted to register into LaunchPad. I can simply enter my email address that I'd like to use. In this case, I'm entering an email that already has a LaunchPad account, and now I just enter my password, assuming I remember it. There we go. And now I'm being prompted to either enter an access code that comes packaged with a textbook, purchase access if I'd like to go completely paperless, or do the free trial access. This is a really nice feature because this offers full access to the LaunchPad site for 21 days. This is great because if students are waiting on financial aid or if they're waiting to get paid and they just don't have money to buy their materials, they can still access all of the content that's available for the course, and it really alleviates any excuses for students not to come completely prepared to class on the first day of class. Because as we mentioned before, most versions of LaunchPad include the full ebook. So not only will your students have access to the ebook, the LaunchPad homepage, and any of the homework that you've assigned, they can get it even without needing to purchase anything for the first 21 days. Then at that point, they would need to apply full access with either the access code option or purchasing access. And that's the whole process. Once your students complete this simple connection, they will then have the single sign-on capabilities that I demonstrated before from the instructor side. And I'd like to now just open this up for any questions.
Brian, we've been getting a few as you've been presenting, so I'm going to go in the order that they have come in.
Perfect.
Can a LaunchPad quiz be exported so they can be used in Moodle quizzing?
Not exactly. So the way it would work is we can bring in quizzes from LaunchPad to Moodle, but it would treat them as a LaunchPad assignment. We do offer test banks that can be converted to Moodle format if needed for those types of purposes. Most of our test banks are offered on a software called Diploma, which you're probably familiar with, that can be converted to the Moodle format, and then you could combine activities such as learning curves or videos with any types of original quizzes that actually live in Moodle.
Okay. On the subject of test banks, we had a question about where do the test banks come from that the quizzes are built from? And I think I'll give a crack at this one, Brian.
Sure.
The majority, 98% of the LaunchPads include a test bank that accompanies the book. So the test bank that you get along with the book is also loaded into LaunchPad. On a title-by-title basis, there are additional questions in LaunchPads. Sometimes, oftentimes, there will be the end-of-chapter questions included as well. And oftentimes, those end-of-chapter questions are written so they can be graded by a computer. Sometimes there are essay questions or other style of questions that are included. So depending on the title that you use, you'll definitely have the book's test bank. You will likely have the end of chapter questions, and oftentimes there will be other various test banks or quiz banks that are also included in there. And Brian referenced this, but I want to reinforce it, if you will. You can write any question that you wish into a quiz that you make in LaunchPad, and that can be delivered, through the Moodle integration and reported to the Moodle gradebook. I just want to check to see how we're doing with chat. How do I prompt a grade sync? Is it done for me? I'll let you guys take that one.
Actually, the answer to that question is grade sync happens automatically. Generally, that will occur once every hour or so, but some admins set it up to be once every 24 hours. So grade sync will be automatic, and however, if you'd like to see your grades come in sooner than that, Scott, do you mind giving me control of the screen again?
Not at all. Let me get to you and go ahead and do that. And we're getting a few more questions coming in too, so.
Sure. Okay, so as I said, the grade sync will happen automatically. However, if your students just took a test or a final exam and they're really antsy to see those grades right away, we do have a way to kickstart those grades in quicker. So we have a feature called the Macmillan Grade Refresh, which is available through the Macmillan Course Tools, which is this plugin that's at the top of my Moodle course. This will also be available in all of your Moodle sections as well. If I click on this, there's a bunch of different features available to me, although it seems to be cut off at the moment. What you normally
Brian,
would see here.
You're enrolled as a student right now.
Oh, thank you. Let me go back in with my instructor access.
You had joined that class as a student, as an example.
Okay, we're back. So if I click on the Macmillan course tools, thank you, Casey, we have this option here called Macmillan Grade Refresh. If I click on this, I can actually pick any activity that I'd like, such as this Chapter 2 summative quiz, and had my students already taken this and I wanted them to see those grades right away in Moodle, I could click this Refresh Grades button and all of those grades would come in immediately as opposed to during the next automatic grade sync. But it should happen automatically.
Thank you. Next question, and the institution may be a factor here, so I'm going to read the institution too. What kind of lead time do you need to get the integration set up at an institution, i.e. UMass Amherst? So I think there's sort of two answers. I don't know the state at UMass Amherst in terms of where the integration is, but maybe answer that. You know, I'll just let you answer it. I'm butchering it. Go ahead.
Well, it varies actually from one school to another. Certain schools have different types of security questionnaires that they need to be filled out. Some schools, it can be instantaneous. We've had schools where we've reached out to their admins and within a day or two, they're set up for integration. But other schools, they have different time frames that they'll allow to set up integrations, or like I said, different types of security requirements. But we're certainly, if anyone's interested in doing this, we're certainly willing to reach out to your admins and establish that contact so we can get the process going.
But once the integration is set up at that institution, the lead time is significantly less, though. The lead time is longer if it's the first integration at that institution. The lead time is going to be longer because it needs to. The initial setup has to happen. Once it's set up, that lead time is. And I'll let you guys sort of expand on that.
That's exactly.
Our integration operates on. I'm sorry, Brian.
Go ahead.
At account level as the institution level. So that's when we work with the LMS administrator to install the right information for the integration to work at your campus. And once that's done, then any other instructor that is at that school is essentially ready to go. And I work with Brian on helping instructors set up their courses. So we then can reach out and get you set up. And it's really in a matter of under an hour, 30 minutes or so, and getting your course ready to go.
Here's another question I don't know the answer to, and maybe you guys do. Are due dates required to be set for assignments, learning curve quizzes in LaunchPad, and then in parentheses, we'd rather all due dates live in the LMS?
All due dates would need to be set in LaunchPad, but those due dates carry over to the LMS. So any LaunchPad content that has to be set in LaunchPad. It's a one-way communication for due dates and points. All of that needs to be set in LaunchPad, but if you make changes, you can still make them in LaunchPad, and then also available through the Macmillan course tools is a feature called Content Refresh, which is right here. So let's say that you change the due date, change the point value to any of these activities, or even all of them. You just simply select the content and click Refresh Content Links, and those changes will be imported into your Moodle course.
Another question, I think I will try this one. How do students get an access code? Excellent question. There are actually a couple of ways the student can get the access code. They can purchase a text package at the bookstore. We do package LaunchPad for free with the majority of our texts. So if they were to buy a new text from the bookstore, they have the option, if you use the ISBN that includes the code, it can be included at no extra cost. We're also doing loose leaf bundles that are actually a discount with the LaunchPad code in certain disciplines in the spring. And then, of course, there is direct purchase. So the students have the option, sort of like buying an ebook, if you will. They can directly purchase access, generally 50% of the cost of a new text, 50, 60% the cost of a new text. They can purchase it. It's similar to the way they would purchase an ebook. And Brian had shown something that I think is really useful to all students. There is a 21-day grace period for access to LaunchPad, which means access to LaunchPad inside of Moodle as well. So the students can use that grace period to decide, do I need a text bundle? Do I want to buy a loose leaf? Am I okay just buying direct access? So they have 3 weeks where they can access for free all of the ebook and all the content of the LaunchPad course inside of Moodle while deciding which option is best for them. It also means that they don't have any excuse in the first week of class that as to why they can't get the text or complete the assignments, because all they have to do is sign in and click free grace period. So it sort of eliminates that. If they're, if you're used to excuses like I'm waiting for my financial aid, or I don't get paid until next Friday, or whatever the case may be, that excuse goes away, which is kind of nice. We're looking to see if we've got other questions coming in. Is it possible to set up grades in fractions? That I do not know. So Brian, Casey?
That's a really good question. All I can say is if there's a way to set up those types of settings in Moodle, it might be possible. But I'd say that the best thing to do is why don't we meet one-on-one and we can figure out together if that's a possibility. Because that's, just like Scott said in the beginning, the nice thing about using something like Moodle integration with LaunchPad is you would be working with a devoted team, either myself or my colleague Casey. You have actual real names to reach out to, and we're not just here to support in a technical support fashion. We will actually work with you to collaborate on achieving what exactly it is you're trying to do in your courses and make this content work. So we would certainly
Brian,
try.
Please tell me that's the correct address for you.
That's me.
That is your email address, right?
That is my email, yes.
I'm going to do another run through to make sure we're not missing any questions. Someone asked, when will UConn win a basketball game? Casey, that's hilarious. I'm assuming the next time they play. I'm a UConn grad, in case it wasn't obvious from that question and answer. I can't see the Q&A right now. Casey, can you see the Q&A? I don't know. It seems to have disappeared from my screen. I just have chat. Am I missing anything in Q&A?
There are 2 questions that came in. Another question was, do I have to use the curated content? And the answer to that question is no. We do provide content curated into units for you, but if we go to any LaunchPad site, if you recall that before I clicked on the resources tab and then the content by type, there's a lot of content that isn't already in the units for you already. So you can always add additional content that's not in the units and assign that to your students, or remove content that's been curated. So you are not limited to only what's curated into the LaunchPad folders.
Thank you, Brian. Did you say there was another question as well?
Yes, there was a couple of questions. One question was, for non-essay questions, can the scores go directly to the LMS gradebook? I believe we answered that already, and the answer is yes. Anything that automatically grades will automatically report to LaunchPad and therefore report to the Moodle gradebook. Can faculty also create their own teaching materials? If by teaching materials you mean can faculty make their own quizzes, yes, you can make complete quizzes either using our test banks from the ground up, or you can make tests with your own original questions that will also auto-grade with the multiple choice feature. We do provide a lot of instructor resources that maybe necessarily wouldn't be assigned to students, such as topics for discussion. We have instructor manuals, PowerPoints. All of that content could be customized, so you could either use what we provide and intersperse it with your own original content, or use it for ideas to create your own original instructor resources.
And just
hopefully I'm not speaking. Go ahead, Casey.
Oh, just the nice thing about using using integration, using LaunchPad through integration, is if you have those teaching materials already set up in your Moodle course, they can stay there, and you are then allowed to kind of use LaunchPad as a repository for additional content to enhance those teaching materials, both in class and out class.
And then a sort of a related question. Faculty also get support in creating their own course and teaching materials.
Yes.
Yes, we have a couple of different levels of support. Brian and I work on the integration team, and we approach it from a consultative stance where, we really want to find out how you plan to use LaunchPad and the best way that you can use LaunchPad through the lens of integration. If you're starting out with LaunchPad for the first time and you're looking for maybe some ideas for your specific discipline, we also have a team that is focused on the disciplines you're teaching in and maybe the best ways to pick and choose content from LaunchPad that will support what you're doing in the classroom for your specific discipline. And if you'd like to see a demo of LaunchPad through that lens, we could certainly help facilitate that.
I think that covers everything. Thank you so much, folks, for all the great questions. And I'm very impressed by the number of attendees in relation to the number of signups. I'm guessing that folks using Moodle are a little more tech savvy than their average bear, because our percentage is much higher than it normally is in terms of signups versus attendees. So you guys obviously are able to figure out technology very well. But you won't have to, because you've got Ryan and Casey to help you along the way. Thanks again. We will be sending out information about LaunchPad, a link to this recording, and a reminder on how to pursue this in a follow-up email that will probably come early next week. But if you're wondering right now, there is your email address that you can pursue on your own. Thank you again. Have a wonderful rest of the week.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.